Previously on Dandies in Danger. How's Daniel coping with everything that happened?
Zachary and Daniel household is good vibes at the moment. So he feels like they actually did a good thing at this point. He's still going to like social events, but not too many. He kind of has more of an interest in staying inside. He's been writing a lot.
He's actually been in a really, really good mood recently anyway, because he's starting to make his way out of the church. He's going to be working at an institution that his friend's family runs.
How is Liam doing?
He's emotionally repressing everything.
After what happened, well, in the dungeons, I can tell he's hiding. He's trying to hide it, but, well, I think he's hurting quite a lot.
Hi, my name is Elijah. My pronouns are he, him, and I play the voice of Zachary Wilkos.
Hi, I'm Cass. My pronouns are she, her, and I voice Liam Bardsley.
Hi, I'm Chess, he, she, they, and I voice Daniel Pritchard.
Hi, I'm Toast, pronoun she, they, and I play Adrian Edwards.
Welcome, everyone, to Arc 4, Holloway Manor Unwound.
It's like a full title and everything.
The brick facade of 26 Hill Street blinks awake with a flicker of light in the fourth-story window. Dawn has yet to break over the pristine streets of Mayfair, but inside that window, Mr. Alan Bates is already preparing for the day. At his washstand, he splashes water on his face and shakes a few stray droplets from his hair. Like his employer, Mr. Liam Bardsley, he dresses and grooms himself fastidiously. Checking his pocket watch, Alan is pleased to see that he has enough time to read a chapter of Dangerous Liaisons before work. The scheming of fictional aristocrats amuses him just as much as the backroom gossip about real lords and ladies. In Alan's experience, secrets are the brick and mortar foundation of London high society, a precarious situation for anyone who doesn't keep their wits about them. At 5 a.m., he descends to Liam's dressing room on the third floor, throwing open the sash. Already the air outside feels heavy and expectant. He makes a mental note to send Liam out with a raincoat and beaver top hat. Next, he retrieves an outfit from the wardrobe and lays it out on the wooden clothes horse. Liam specifically requested this pink floral brocade waistcoat paired with the camel jacket and trousers for today. Alan's mustache twitches into a wry smile, recalling the young man's poorly contained enthusiasm last night when he'd confessed to canceling 2 bank meetings in order to go shopping with Mr. Adrian Edwards. Alan brushes the jacket and trousers with a little extra care today. Afterwards, he turns his attention to the vanity, ensuring that the straight razor is set and stropped, and that Liam's brush and bergamot cologne are close at hand. From the vanity drawer, he selects a pale pink hair ribbon to match the waistcoat. By 6:30, he's down in the kitchen, heating the kettle and preparing sausage and eggs. Recently, Liam has traded tea for coffee, and even though Alan would never in his life say so, the dark circles under Liam's eyes indicate that he might actually need it. Once breakfast is finished, he places it under a silver cloche on the ambitiously long dining table and steps out to pick up today's paper. This, too, is a reminder of Mr. Edwards. Liam subscribed to a home delivery of the London Compass soon after meeting the young newspaper heir, though frankly, from what Alan has heard through his connections, Adrian probably wouldn't care about this gesture one way or the other. Once again, Alan checks his pocket watch. Just enough time to cut and iron the paper and have a glance at the news himself before waking his employer. He skims the front page. A tragic explosion at the Wallsend Colliery Pit. A sale on Gowland's lotion for clear complexion. A review of Mary Shelley's novel L'Adore. Then, on the second page, one story catches his attention. Sopping specters in the streets. a series of mysterious disappearances were resolved yesterday by the sudden return of 6 missing persons. None of the individuals, who wished to remain anonymous, shared any acquaintance with one another, nor are their occupations, which run the gamut from barrister to dockworker, connected by any common thread. The only reason Scotland Yard believes these 6 cases are related is due to the particulars of their return. Each of the 6 were found wandering home in the small hours of the morning with their clothing soaked through, and what's more, with their entire outfits fully whitened as if with bleach. These pale figures marched home on foot, to their undoubtedly shocked and relieved families, and by all accounts insist on resuming life as usual. None of them can recall where they spent their time while missing. However, seeing as their health is unaffected and the families are now happily reunited, the constabulary is currently unconcerned with a threat to the public. At 7:29, Alan tucks the paper under his arm and proceeds upstairs with the hot water for shaving. After filling a bowl on the vanity, he knocks on the door connecting the dressing room to the bedroom. Liam calls him in, and Alan finds him already awake, as per usual, wrapped in his dressing gown, stretching his legs rather more like an athlete than a gentleman. Liam cheerfully inquires about the news from the society pages, and Alan reports that Lord Francis Osborne's youngest daughter is getting married today to Sir Rupert Mattingly. Scandal, meanwhile, has struck the Bancroft family, whose only son was called into court for gambling debts massive enough to ruin them all. Liam takes the news with an appropriately happy and disapproving noise in each case. Between the gentleman and valet, every motion in the house follows a predictable pulse. The shaving, the dressing, the polished shoes, even a little banter is to be expected. Liam treats Alan with a friendly, casual attitude, and Alan is happy to oblige. But the reality remains, only one of them is heir to a banking fortune. The unused bedrooms and echoing halls of the massive townhouse are a testament to that privilege and expectation. Down at breakfast, Alan flips through a stack of calling cards and invitations while Liam tucks into his sausage and eggs. Mr. Gross and Mr. Adams from the New Surrey branch of the Bardsley Bank send their regards, as does a Miss Carter from Tuesday's party. And it would seem that you have 2 invitations for this evening, sir. One from the Petty siblings to attend the theatre, and one from Misters Wilkos and Pritchard to join them for tea at 5:30 p.m. I see it says here in the postscript that Adrian has also been invited. Liam barely pretends to weigh the 2 options before asking Alan to send an apology to the Pettys and an enthusiastic response to Zach and Daniel. With that, he drains his coffee cup and rises to leave. If you need to reach me, I'll be at the club until I meet Adrian at 1. Take care, Bates. Thank you, sir. Here, your beaver hat and coat. It looks like a storm might blow in. It can't be helped, I suppose. Hopefully it will have the courtesy to wait until I'm safe indoors with my friends. And Liam strides out into the warm summer morning. We now travel to another part of town. How do Zach and Daniel spend their mornings? Run us through it. Let's start with Zach.
Zachary usually wakes up to the sound of his cat meowing outside the door demanding breakfast. And if the meowing wasn't enough, the little creature also reaches up and paws at the door handle and, makes that jiggling sound of that almost makes it sound as though someone is trying to come in, which is near impossible for Zachary to sleep through. So he gets up and immediately, Mitty, his cat Midnight, is meowing at him. So he picks him up and throws him over his shoulder, like a small monkey or a small child or something, and pets him, which mostly quiets the cat. And then he gets to the kitchen and he starts opening a can for him.
Do they have can? Is that how cats
Oh, that was before the Industrial Revolution. Never mind. He gets some sort of food for him. I don't know.
You got some scraps.
Got some scraps, probably, yeah.
Pulls a mouse out of the pantry and just tosses it down.
Yeah.
A live mouse.
Catches it
sitting there patiently.
So what does Zach do for his own breakfast?
The Taurus energy in this.
Should be more thorough. No, I suppose he grabs a couple eggs and he eats those. He doesn't always have a lot, but he mostly feasts off of bread and cheese. So it's something like eggs in the morning. If it's I suppose, and especially Good Morning, where he's got a bonus recently, he will have meat, but just this morning, it's probably just going to be eggs, bread, and butter.
Excellent.
NT.
Does Daniel wake up around the same time as Zachary, or does he tend to sleep in a little bit? Zachary is now working at the Bardsley Bank, and so he's probably getting up around, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's probably getting up around 6:30 or so, that he can be ready to leave and be walking to work by 7:30, because he has a bit of a trek to get to the Bardsley Bank, especially if he's walking, but he might have some other manner of transportation to get there.
No, Daniel typically wakes up around 11 a.m. He works like deep into the night, so he usually goes to bed at like 3 or something, like every night. That's just his circadian rhythm. He's a night person. A lot of creatives are. So yeah, he's conked out. He's sleeping. What time is Liam trying to come over? Because 5:30 in the morning.
PM.
No,
PM
for tea.
Oh, thank
for
God.
tea, for afternoon tea. Yeah, this is
That late.
the idea that he's
We've been at work all day.
Yeah, the idea
okay.
is that he's going to come over for tea after Zach gets back from his day of work.
Okay, Daniel's up by then. You want to know how he wakes up and spends his morning and what he eats and what he wears? And
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tell me everything in excruciating detail. I want to know.
Sorry, I'm teasing you.
I do want to know what he does, because I want to know, does he work at home? Does he spend the
Yeah, he
entire
works at
day
home.
cooped up in the house? Does he take a stroll in the middle of the day, or
Does he get dressed?
Does he even get dressed? Yeah.
some days he doesn't get dressed. Sometimes he'll just like be in his robe and like immediately sit down to his desk and start writing. But he usually wakes up with like some sort of pastry or something with like bread and fat and like sugar in it that usually sustains him.
Mm-hmm.
He's very fond of sweets, so he'll wake up with something like that, and then he'll like forget to eat until he like feels dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll be like, oh yeah, I should put something in me. And then he'll eat something. He's only really competent at making dinner. That's it. Breakfast and lunch is like scavenging. Yeah, he'll typically get dressed at like 1 or something.
Excellent.
Nice.
So I'm going to say Zachary is on his way to work at the Bardsley Bank. And Daniel, once you have rousted yourself out of bed, first of all, tell me, what is Daniel working on right now? What story is he working on?
Well, with all of these adventures, he has been keeping notes of them. He jots down all the notes of what happened. For this one, he has started to use a bit more code and a bit more fantasy because he doesn't want to implicate any of the lads for the murder they committed.
Yeah.
So he uses fantastical words and different occupations for these characters and things like that. But he is keeping notes of all of the adventures that the lads go on. And of course, everyone goes by different names.
Mm-hmm.
This is the memoir that he's working on for Zachary, which is now going to have to be highly fictionalized. And that occurs to him. And he wonders if he's getting in too deep. But then he also wonders if he would be satisfied just writing about adventures rather than going on them himself. He's also starting to develop another novel taking place in 18th century Vienna. Mostly historical fiction, but he's thinking of adding a very slight supernatural element into it. And that's all I'll say on that. He's developing that story, and it's in the ideas stage right now.
Excellent. So as he's getting himself his breakfast, he might check the mail to see anything for him. Zachary probably already brought it in and laid it out on the kitchen table. And as he's flipping through some of the mail that he's received, a very familiar name stands out to him. You have received a card from one Reginald Caulfield. And on the back of this calling card, in fine penmanship, you can hear his voice.
Can you please do it for me?
Daniel, my boy, how are you doing?
He opens the fucking letter and he's like, oh god.
His hair goes back.
Jesus.
Daniel, my boy. Oh, jeez.
How are you keeping? You must be very well, very hale and hearty. Very hale and hearty. It seems to me that you've been taking a decent amount of time to rest and recuperate, and I eagerly anticipate the chapters that you will be sending me, undoubtedly, this very week. Having spent so much time tending to your health, I eagerly await your results. please do get back to me. I'm not entirely sure if the Veil has been sending the other letters that I've sent off to you. All the best. Yours very dearly, Reginald Caulfield.
Never mind any which way. This is stressful. For Daniel, he touches his head. He gets migraines often, but he touches his head and he feels one coming on because they're stress induced. And he remembers that he's in the middle of a novel taking place in 16th century Russia, and he hasn't touched it in a while because of all the adventures they've been going on and all the rest and recuperation he's had to do from that. So that stresses him out.
So on that lovely note, we're going to travel over to Zachary. Zachary is traveling from his house up to Chancery Lane, where the Bardsley Bank resides. He each day has to cross over the Thames. He probably takes Waterloo Bridge in order to get there. And he comes into his offices. Liam made sure that he got his own private offices, and he's been working there for a little while now. So it is June 19th, and it's a Friday. So he's been there for a few weeks now. He's got all of his wards up in place. Everything is more or less sort of running by a status quo. If anything, it's been a little bit boring. Do you have any thoughts on Zach's time there so far?
I think he gets antsy in the middle of things getting so mundane nowadays, whereas before he was easily able to sort of turn off and go with the flow. It's kind of a new routine, and he hasn't been able to quite lock into that autopilot yet. But I think, he's still very socially anxious. He's not really going to go out of his way to talk to anybody, but he has been feeling a little more maybe I can. Recently, he'll say good morning and he'll never be impolite or he'll never shun anybody. But I think he knows that people can sense a sort of nervous energy off of him at times, and he inwardly scolds himself for that. And he's like, just act normal, just act normal, just act normal. Why can't I just act normal? And all in all, it's a lot better, though, than having to go into the church and go into the belly of that place anymore, especially after knowing what's down there and especially after what had happened. Being able to resign and leave, nobody really thought anything of it, and it was all very easy, but it still, made his heart hurt, and he's still worried that someone from the church is at some point going to storm in and go, "Hey, you were the guy who broke in!" Got him! I think there's a lot of elements at play where he never allows himself to feel completely safe, but he is slowly being lulled into the idea that maybe this is okay.
Excellent.
Maybe he's gotten away with it and everything's fine.
I'm delighted to tell you that even if Zach might not make any overtures towards other people, there is one person who has made pretty regular overtures to Zach. There is a friendly gentleman by the name of Matthew Merriweather. You can't quite tell how old he is. He's probably upper 30s or lower 40s, and he seems to have taken you under his wing. He's one of the extroverts that sees an introverted person and makes it their life goal to bring them about a little bit. And so whenever you get to your desk and you get set up and you've been filing out your paperwork for maybe a couple of hours, you hear a little rap on your door and Matthew sticks his head in. "All right, Zachary."
"All right, Matthew."
"Say, listen, me and some of the other lads from here in accounting, we were going to head out and take our lunch outside today. It's very warm. We wanted to get out before the rain hits. You coming with us?"
"Oh, I'm not sure. I have..."
"Oh, of course you are. Come on, it's going to be at Lincoln's Inn Fields. Lovely place, big old trees, beautiful. Come on with us."
"Well, Sure."
"Excellent. That's a lad. Very good. Well, keep at it, Don't work too hard. But I'll see you at lunchtime, yeah?"
"Yes, of course. See you then."
And now, at long last, we're going to go over to another late riser. Adrian, how do you spend your morning?
Adrian also doesn't get up till 11. It's almost exactly the same. He stays up late. He gets up at 11. He puts on as few clothes as absolutely necessary. He usually start out in his room. He's got a little chair and a table there where Ollie will bring him breakfast.
His manservant?
Yes, Ollie, his valet. And there, if he had any interesting dreams, or if he's working on ideas or poetry, he'll jot notes down first
thing in the morning. He keeps a dream journal?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. If he had any cool imagery. And it can depend on the day whenever he makes it downstairs to do almost the exact same thing, but in the parlor. But probably by 1 p.m. he'll move downstairs and stay there until something absolutely forces him out of the house.
Does Ollie ever encourage him to freshen up a little bit?
Yeah. There's definitely days when he tries to convince him to get dressed, at least as much as a waistcoat and a cravat. Maybe in the morning, Ollie will lay out a few things and he'll be like, "Why don't you wear this today? I picked it out and it's a very nice one. You could get dressed."
Adrian is also in a unique living situation. He lives in the very fashionable building, the Albany, which is famous for being the haunt of rich bachelors. Does he ever... I think we all know the answer to this one, but I'll say it anyway. Does he ever interact with any of his neighbors there at the Albany?
Not at all. So much that I often forget he fucking lives in an apartment building and not in his own house, but he does technically live around other people. And I like to picture him coming home, unlocking his door, and he sees somebody around the corner, and he's like, "Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god." Yeah.
Give me in.
Yeah. So no, he probably knows a few names, but I don't think he's spoken to literally anybody else who lives there. Ollie's probably spoken to more people than he has.
That tracks. Well, what is Adrian doing this morning since he has a meeting with Liam at 1 o'clock to go shopping?
He probably actually is getting Ollie to help him pick out some clothes. He's like, "What do you think will look nice?" Liam was always so fashionable. I wonder what colors he's wearing, And so Ollie picks him out just what he can out of his very limited color palette, which is mostly blues and dark grays and blacks and stuff like that.
That's very fashionable for the time.
Yeah.
That's true.
Then, around 1 o'clock, Liam shows up to collect Adrian.
I'm trying to think. No, Adrian's just waiting in the parlor. I was imagining him standing in the little front hall of his home. But no, he's waiting in the parlor. He probably feels a little nervous still going out. Ollie opens the door and he says, "Good afternoon."
"Good afternoon, Mr. Reed. Is Adrian ready?"
"Yes."
Excellent. Well, I'm here to collect him. I believe we had a prior arrangement.
"Very well. I'll show you to the parlor." And Adrian is sitting at his desk. He's probably writing, acting cool like he doesn't realize you're coming in.
Oh, did we have an appointment today?
I didn't hear you come in.
Yeah. Ollie clears his throat and Adrian, he looks up and he's like, "Oh, Liam."
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Adrian. Should we wait a little while? Do you need to get that down?
"No, it's fine."
Can I see what you're working on?
"Not at all."
Oh, sorry. I suppose you are an artist at work. Can't see it till it's finished and all that.
No, it's a work in progress. Haven't got all the rhymes yet.
All right. Well, I trust you to it. You are the poet, after all.
Yes, I am. Right. And he puts his little pen aside, his little feather quill. "So, how are we going? How are you?"
Yes, well, I'm doing very well, thank you. And I've got a few ideas about where we might stop off today. I hope you're ready for this. There's a few tailors that I'm particularly keen on visiting. We could stop by John Weston. He's a very famous chap. We might get a few waistcoats from him, I was thinking. And you do owe me a cravat still, I believe.
Yes, I've been aware of that for some time now.
Excellent.
Everyone owes Liam a cravat.
I hope we can find some things for you as well. I had an idea, and Liam is guiding you out now.
Yeah.
And as...
Adrian waves to Ollie. "Bye. I'll see you tonight."
Oh my god, he's so cute.
As they stroll out to the carriage that Liam has requested to stay waiting for them, Liam goes on to describe a few other places that they might visit while they're out. There's another tailor by the name of Schweister and Davidson on Cork Street, and Bond Street in general, the Western Exchange, and in particular, Burlington Arcade.
The Burlington.
Yes.
I have
Get
to make
good
a great
coats there.
Fuck you.
Wait, is that the same Burlington? It
You
must
know-
be, right?
Probably. I mean, there still is a Burlington Arcade. Some of these are actually indoor shopping malls. So you'll have huge indoor spaces where vendors will set up their stalls. And at the Burlington Arcade, they actually have different storefronts all within this one area. They have things like milliners, hosiers, glovers, linen shops, They've got hairdressers, shoemakers, watchmakers, all sorts of things. So as you get into the carriage, Liam is very excitedly leaning over and he says, "After our last adventure, I was thinking perhaps we could get you a few more pieces of jewelry?"
Adrian's eyes brighten up quite a bit. He's like, oh, because for a second he was going to be like, I wouldn't call that an adventure. But then you mentioned the jewelry and he's like, oh, God, yeah.
Well, I did say I might get you something, a few matching pieces. And, no one's to know what it's for or who it's for while we're out shopping. So I think in addition to that, I might actually be interested in getting a few new rings for myself in case I need to do any more enchantments, so you might keep that in mind as well while we're shopping. So I think you'll want things. We'll get you many things, Adrian. Don't worry. Don't make that face. Don't make that face. We'll get you things that you can wear.
Get things that will just break.
Well, that's why we'll get multiple things. That's what today's all about. We'll get very fine things for ourselves, as well as things that we can use.
All right.
I'm terribly excited. Thank you for coming. I know this isn't exactly your cup of tea.
He's so baby.
Adrian eyes Liam a little bit, and he's like, have you been recovering well since our last so-called adventure?
Oh, it's just business as usual and carrying on with the bank and all of that. I have been busy. I did really enjoy our trip that we all took out together, out to see Uncle Oscar. That was quite lovely, very restorative. I'm fine. I feel fine.
Adrian squints at him.
Do a d20 roll.
Oh. Can I add my wisdom?
Yes.
Oh, balls. I only got a 7.
Is that all together?
Yes.
Yeah, he's fine. He's perky and bubbly, and he does seem genuinely very excited to be here with you. He's holding his hands together in excitement to sort of keep them from flying about all over the place while he talks. And the carriage is rattling you off towards Bond Street, which is a very fashionable place for fashionable gents to do their shopping. Everything's fine. Mm-hmm. He's fine.
Adrian's probably like, well, I know he loves shopping.
And now we bounce back to Zachary, and it is lunchtime.
He glances at his watch, really, and he's like, oh, it's time. And there's a sort of startle that creeps into his chest when he remembers that he's to be going out with other people. He only really just knows on this level, and he sort of wakes up and remembers, oh my god, they're going outside the office. They're going outside of his wards. And he agreed to that, like it was okay, because he holds his head a little and he has this inner monologue of, because he's been so used to having Adrian and Daniel and Liam all know his, issue. Now he's allowed himself to just be, all willy-nilly. He would have never made this mistake if he was still working at the church. And he stops and he takes a breath and he goes, okay, well, panicking about it isn't really going to help me right now, and if anything, it's only going to make me worse. So he takes a breath, and he gets up, and he says, I know how to ignore things. I know how to go back into myself and pretend, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It always is. So he gathers his things, and he debates faking maybe a stomach illness, except that his acting is terrible, so he goes anyway.
Merryweather is there waiting for you, along with a couple of other gentlemen whom you have come to know as Archer and Shepherd.
Wow. That's fucking rad. Sorry. I think even Zachary, when Zachary was introduced to them, was like, dang. All right.
And they're waiting there for you. Oh, wait, first of all, shout out to my wife for helping me come up with a bunch of NPC last names and first names before recording. You rock, babe.
What can I say?
So, Merryweather is very excited to see you, and he waves you over, and he says, all right, well, we're gonna head out. Did you bring your own food, or shall we grab something along the way? Perhaps a vendor?
I brought something for myself. He does. He's very sort of frugal like that.
Bardsley Bank is within walking distance to Lincoln's Inn Fields. It's still pretty humid today, and I think you can feel in the air the clouds are sort of starting to come in. Thunderstorms are not incredibly common in London, but they do happen occasionally during the summer, and you can kind of feel that electric sensation in the air as you are walking down the streets and then into this nice pastoral field.
You sure we're not going to get rained on?
Oh, no, it's fine. I mean, you brought your hat and everything, didn't you? So we'll be all right. It'll be fine. We can always just run back in if it starts to rain.
Suppose that's true.
Always good to take advantage of an opportunity like this, I think. All right, well, we're going to stop over at some of these vendors over here. I see that they've got some pies and some meats. So you just wait here for us.
Right, I'll just be here.
And as you're taking in the sights and sounds, some sounds are anachronous to the time that you're living in. And you can tell this. You're prepared for it. You braced yourself before you left the office. But you've never walked through Lincoln's Inn Field before. And you can tell what the history of this place is just by listening and then by looking around. Lincoln's Inn Field was a place of many executions.
Oh, dear.
This was...
Good. Oh, this is going to go so well.
I would like you to just take one fright.
Yeah.
Just one fright.
Nothing I can do about that.
This is a place where conspirators against the crown were hanged, drawn, quartered. Some of the screaming that you hear is related to that. And you can see the beautiful scenic trees that are up ahead have ghostly figures.
Oh, good.
From this now historic spot, but it is very much not your scene, and I think you find yourself reminded exactly why you don't go out for lunches very often.
There are things he has lived with all his life. The occasional death out of, like, the corner of his eye, and seeing somebody pass away violently on his morning routines and walks. He had always thought there would be a time at which he would be unfazed by this sort of thing, and every time something new bubbles up and startles him, and he's always surprised at how new fear can feel all over again. And maybe he thinks it's something wrong with him, that it's some fault of his own that he hasn't toughened up to this yet, but... So, he can see them being executed, or he can just hear what's going on.
If he looks up, he can see ghosts of those who were executed, and he cannot see the people who are being drawn and quartered, but he can hear them.
The hearing only is almost worse than the seeing, because when you see something, you can sort of mentally prepare for the sound that comes next. If it's got an eventual rhythm to it, he can possibly fall into the rhythm, but if it is not timed out, if it's not rhythmic, it might be a little bit of a jolt each time, but he is doing his best to keep it together.
Mm-hmm. Does he decide to stay and have lunch with his coworkers?
He can't think of a good excuse to leave.
All right.
The way he operates is very, just keep going until it's over.
That makes sense for him. Merriweather pops up behind you. I don't know if you noticed him. Actually, go ahead. Give me a d20 roll. I want to know if you notice him.
Okay. That's a 1. Oh, that's
no!
like a full 1.
Oh, no. So a hand claps down on your shoulder, and you don't have to take a fright if you don't want to, but...
I think unfortunately that does give him a
Oh my
fright.
gosh. Starting out strong for Zach. Merriweather claps a hand down and says, "Hey, you all right? Got your head in the clouds there? Oh, sorry. You're a little bit jumpy, aren't you?"
Oh, apologies. So you somehow snuck right up on me. I was just thinking about how lovely it is today, and I suppose I got caught up in the scenery.
Yes. Oh, beautiful place, isn't it? We come here all the time. Glad you came with us today. Lovely place. Well, we've got our meat pies. Let's go have a sit down and nosh away.
Excellent.
Is Daniel doing anything? It's about midday now. Is Daniel doing anything to prepare for Liam and Adrian coming over today?
No, he's a little time blind. So he is just putzing about having a normal day, and he's gonna freak out when it's like 5 and be like, "Oh god, the house is a mess." But he has at least washed his face in his pits, and he's put on some clothes.
Very nice.
And he's thinking about maybe feeding himself.
Good for him.
But he's mostly been working
Well, that's good.
on that novel that he is newly stressed about. So he's working on the Russian novel right now.
So is that 3 novels that Daniel is working on? He's working on the memoirs with Zach, the
Vienna,
Vienna, and then the one
Viennese
for
one.
Russia?
Yes. So the Viennese one right now is just like in the idea stage, and he's very excited by it because it's like new, and he's like, like, you know, like when you're stuck working on something, it's hard to persevere in it, and you kind of always like excited by the news. So he's like, what I could be writing instead is, and then like his brain just like flourishes. He's also been pressured to write another poetry book, so he has been writing some poems that he will eventually compile, but at the moment, yeah, he's working on a lot of things right now, and he has already informed Reginald that the memoir is going to take a while, but the Russian novel is the one that is most pertinent right now.
So it sounds like he usually keeps himself pretty busy, even if he doesn't really go anywhere. He's constantly got something on his plate where he's bouncing from project to project.
Yep.
Does he ever take the time to relax? Does he take days off, or is he like...
He tries to. He tries to. There are some days where, unfortunately, he will develop a migraine, and that will force him to take the day off. And then he also burns out quite a bit, and then when he burns out, he will take like a week off. But it's not great. It's not healthy. He hasn't really figured out how to work from home yet.
Sounds like he needs a little self-care.
Yeah, he does.
What the fuck?
You'll see. So, Adrian, go ahead and roll me a d20. We're just using our standard success rating here to see how you do.
I got a 2.
A 2. You are incredibly overwhelmed. You are incredibly overwhelmed on Bond Street. It's Friday. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The streets are very busy. There's a lot of other gentlemen there. Liam actually locks arms with you. It's fairly common for the time, but he locks arms with you and sort of sensing...
he wouldn't just have to sense it. Adrian would be like, I hate this. I'm very sorry.
All right.
Liam, but I hate this.
Well, damn it all. Well, perhaps if we step into the tailor's, then we might have a bit of an easier time than out here on the street. I promise we're very close. We're very close.
Okay.
It's all right. He squeezes your arm a little bit closer as you are walking arm in arm, and before too long, you do arrive at Weston's tailor.
Adrian's thinking wistfully of Peregrine / Harold Hopkins.
Does he say anything?
No.
Just sighs.
It is still fairly busy in here, but not nearly as much as out on the street. One of the apprentice tailors, looks up and waves at you and says, I'll be with you in a moment, sirs. And so you have a little while to peruse some of the fabrics. Liam dives right in, and he's looking through all of the different wools for the jackets and some of the brocade for the waistcoats.
Has he unlinked arms with Adrian?
Yes.
Okay. When he does that at first, Adrian's kind of left bobbing out there like a little satellite, but then eventually he just drifts after Liam. And he does, maybe sometimes he's like, oh, that one's nice.
Oh, you think so? For yourself or for me? I think you would look rather fetching in this.
Yeah, for me. Sorry, I wasn't looking for you.
That's all right. I mean, I was going to ask you anyway. I found these 2 samples here. There's this one here, which I think is very stunning. I do love the pattern on this one, but I'm worried it might be a little... loud or a little much. I don't know. There's this one over here which is quite classy, but it's a little bit more, subdued, and it's not boring exactly. He whispers that a little bit so as not to be heard, but it's a little more sensible, I suppose. Which one do you think I should get?
What occasion are they for?
That's a very good question. I mean, I was hoping to get a new waistcoat or 2, and I could always, I'm always down at the bank, so I suppose I ought to get the one that will be of more practical use to me. But I do go to quite a lot of parties, so I could have a party waistcoat as well. Which one do you like the best?
Adrian's still processing a lot of this, and he's squinting at Liam. Well, what color are they?
The fun and fancy one is a lovely burgundy color, and the more subdued one is a dark blue, but the fabric is a very nice quality. On the burgundy one, there's a little bit of trim that is cream colored.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very striking. It stands out against the burgundy. It's a statement piece.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And there still is only a little bit.
Adrian's gonna look at them and he's gonna be like, well, which one do you actually want? Why not just get that one?
How about I don't know, what if I tried them on and then you could tell me which one looks best?
You could just get both of them.
Yeah, get both. You're rich.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I could just get both.
I mean, you'll look stunning. You'll look fine in either of them, I'm sure.
Well, which one is it? Will I look stunning or will I look fine?
Oh my god, they're so cute. So.
I don't know. Depends on the atmosphere, probably.
Liam is raising an eyebrow right now.
Why don't you go try them on?
Yes, all right.
Okay.
I'll have them. I'll try them on, and then if they both look good, I'll have them fitted. So Liam goes off, and then he comes back, and he's just in his shirt sleeves and his waistcoat, and he does a little spin for you with the burgundy one. He says, "Well, what do you think?"
Are his muscles showing?
Yeah,
his sleeves?
his muscles are
strong
showing.
arms?
I mean, they have kind of loose sleeves, but
Yeah, but you can see the big biceps in there, probably.
sure, yeah,
his strong
absolutely.
shoulders.
His big broad shoulders.
Okay. Adrian blushes.
Excellent.
Says, "Well, that looks nice. That's fine. It looks good."
Good. Whenever Adrian says that, a couple of the apprentices look up because he was a little bit loud.
It's great.
All right, well, I'll be off to try the other one then. And he goes back to try on the other. And now, back to Zach.
The nightmare picnic.
The nightmare picnic.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a few of those, haven't we?
A little bit.
Everyone is finishing up their lunch break and getting ready to head back out. The rain is also starting to fall, which sort of precipitates everyone's departure. And so everybody's getting all prepared to go, and Merryweather turns over to you, Zach, and says, "Oh, looks like we've been caught out. We might have to cut it a little bit short today,
Oh, what a shame.
Well, it's always nice to stretch your legs anyway. I suppose we'll head on back. God, it is coming down rather fast now, isn't it?
Yes,
You were right, you've got a sixth sense about these sort of things.
Oh, no, I just looked up at the sky, honestly. He smiles, waving his hands, and he goes, "But, you know, summer rains, they come on so fast. I'm just glad we managed to spend as much time out here as we have."
Well, they're getting themselves all prepared to go.
Real quick,
Mm-hmm.
the other two, Archer and
Shepherd.
Merryweather seems to be like, I really want to be this guy's friend.
Mm-hmm.
What is the vibe that Zachary gets from these two?
Oh, that is such a good question. So with Archer and Shepherd, they carry on conversation very smoothly with Merryweather and between each other. They're not ignoring you per se, but they don't make overtures to include you in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem offended by your presence there in the slightest, but they would probably be fairly happy to ignore your presence if Merryweather didn't drag you in every once in a while for conversation.
This makes sense.
Is that what Zach's used to?
Yeah. And not that it makes it better, or feel better rather, but it does motivate him to kind of stay out of the conversations unless Merryweather has turned to him and gone, "What do you think?" And then Zachary will offer an answer, and then the conversation will continue. Merryweather very much reminds him of Liam.
He's very bubbly, that's for sure. So you're on your way back to the office, and you've reached the edge of the park when you notice a man standing at the corner there, sort of close to the sidewalk. He's a fair distance away from you, but you stop when you see him.
Why?
Because you recognize him.
Oh?
The man standing out in the rain, a few yards away from you, is Nathaniel.
He's back. I'm glad. I was hoping to see that guy again.
And Nathaniel is not alone. You can see an exchange as it is happening, even at this distance. You can't quite hear what's being said, but you see him talking to a gentleman who's walking by, and Nathaniel is holding a little pamphlet in his hand, and he's reaching it out to the gentleman who's walked past. The gentleman, you can't quite hear what he says, but he picks up the paper, and then, without even looking at it, he looks up and down at Nathaniel and says some offhanded remark and throws the little pamphlet down on the ground. And at this point, you notice that there is indeed a third figure here. This figure is standing sort of behind and to the side of Nathaniel, And it is, you realize, a young girl. She is wearing a top hat that's too large for her head and a jacket that's much too large for her body. And you can surmise that Nathaniel, who is standing there sopping wet in the rain, has given his jacket and hat to this girl that's standing next to him. And Zach, as the rude gentleman walks away from this exchange, you see his hat go flying off of his head. But it wasn't the wind that did it. And whenever he reaches down to pick up his hat, this pamphlet that he had callously tossed on the ground moves underneath his foot and slips out from underneath him, and so he falls face first into the mud.
Zachary is aghast at such an open display of what is clearly magic. Mm-hmm. He is kind of frozen, even if he's like still in the rain, like, did that really just happen?
The little girl is laughing uproariously.
Oh, now he's scared for that girl. Now he knows that she was the one who did it.
After brushing himself off and throwing a few choice curses over his shoulder, the rude gentleman walks up. Merryweather turns back to you and says, Zach, are you coming? Your jacket's getting all wet.
Just a second, he says, and he...
All right, well, suit yourself. We'll see you back at the office.
Yes, I'll meet you there.
All right. And so, do you approach Nathaniel?
Oh, it's such a dumb idea. Oh, it's actually a dumb idea, and he knows he should just turn around, and he knows he should just go back to work, and he knows he shouldn't get involved, because Nathaniel might recognize him, and that's not good, because that would mean that Zachary was in that burning building at that time, and he was hoping to never see this man again.
Does Nathaniel still look kind of, like, odd? Is he an odd-looking gent?
Does he look like crap?
Does
like
he
last
look
time we saw
him? Is his hair wild?
He looks like a wet cat because he's currently standing in. He's a sopping wet cat of a man.
Kind of odd then.
Because he's standing. He's without his hat and without his jacket, and he's got pamphlets that are. He's desperately trying to keep them from getting soaked through, and he does look a little bit like he wants to cry.
Oh, baby.
Well, now he really can't help himself, and he's so frustrated with himself, but he cannot stop himself from going over to this man, holding his hat as he sort of jogs over in the rain. He goes, I say.
Oh, hello,
He has his hat on and he's kind of tipping it in a way to sort of hide his face.
Nathaniel looks for a moment as if he might recognize you, and then he says, oh, I'm sorry, I must have mistaken you for someone. I thought maybe I knew you, but I don't think we've ever met before. And he pulls out the pamphlet from where he's trying to keep it dry on his waistcoat and says, I say, did you have something you wanted to say, or may I give you this?
I'm curious as to what someone like you is doing just standing out in the rain like this.
I'm handing out pamphlets. Here, take one, please.
Whatever for, what could be so important? He looks at the pamphlet.
Okay, do you read it?
Yes.
All right. The pamphlet reads, Holloway Manor, Hot Spring. Why travel all the way to Bath when you can enjoy the innumerable health benefits and historic splendor of an ancient Roman bath, recently refurbished right here in London? The Holloway Manor is now welcoming guests to the scenic Fulham estate, complete with a terrace garden, luxuriously furnished bedrooms, and, of course, the medicinal hot spring fed from an ancient underground source. The momentous grand opening should not be neglected. Book your room today. And I would like you to roll a d20, please.
10.
Add wisdom to that.
That's 16.
16. Ah, okay. With a success. In addition to what you see written down there, there's a little picture of the exterior of the Holloway Manor on the front of this. And there is a little banner with a little script that wraps around the manor. And on that banner are the words, Legite et credite. I know what that means. And you get a very, very faint sense that something about this pamphlet was not exactly on the up and up.
You're standing out in the rain, handing out pamphlets for a bath.
It is rather funny, isn't it? I'm in a rather dire straits, you see. And he kind of like wipes his face off a little bit. It's raining, so you can't really tell whether or not he's crying, but he says, My employer is the owner of this hot spring, and today is my last chance to get more guests there, or he'll be very cross with me. So here I am, beating the pavement, trying to drum up some business. I have 4 rooms that I need to fill still, but it's a wonderful place. It's just absolutely lovely. I can assure you, you would have a lovely time. The opening is tonight, and it's going to be lovely. The rooms are beautiful, and it's at a very reasonable price.
I couldn't possibly afford such a place. No.
It's actually at very reasonable rates, and he tells you the price, and it's very reasonable.
Suspiciously so.
Suspiciously reasonable rates.
Zachary just
for a place out in West London.
Zachary just shakes his head. He's not entirely being sold on this, but he does look at the girl and he goes, "Whose child is this?"
Oh, this is my niece. She was supposed to stay home today, but she came with me. She is looking at you, Zach. She is making direct eye contact with you, and she's not frowning exactly, but you can see she has a look of intense concentration as she stares at you. She tilts her head just a little bit, but she doesn't say anything. Oh, go ahead, say hello, Emily. Hello.
Hello, Emily. You must be cold.
Yeah, it's all right though. It's better than being at home. And she looks up at Nathaniel and kind of grins a little bit.
Zachary knows a troublemaker when he sees one. And he sort of gives a thoughtful look at that and then looks back to Nathaniel. I suppose you're trying to provide for her then?
Yes. You can see a brief look of consideration pass his face, and then he shakes his head and he says, "Yes, of course."
I don't suppose you'd be doing this if you didn't have another choice, so... He reaches into his back pocket and he takes out some money.
"Oh, you don't have to pay right now, sir. But you agree then? You'll come?"
"No," he says.
"Oh.
I don't have the money for that," but he turns to the girl and he says, "Hold out your hand."
She looks at you and she sort of crosses her hands. She crosses her arms. "Well, what do you want?"
"I'm giving you money, child, so that you might eat. I don't know if you both are in dire straits, but you can at least take it. It's better than standing out in the rain. Only desperate people stand out in the rain, and besides, what good are you going to do for her if you're sick?"
Well, you see,
"Oh, just take it," he says, and
No, Nathaniel actually looks a little bit offended, and he says, "No, I think I'll... Do you know anyone, actually, sir? Rather than money, do you know anybody who could come to the Holloway Manor? Just perhaps share these with your friends." And he hands you the pamphlets. "I promise it's a lovely place, and, well..." He sighs and he says, I suppose there really is no point in standing out here in the rain anyway, because no one is going to much want to come talk to me, although it was very kind of you, sir, to take the time to do so. You should probably get yourself out of the rain."
"Yes, I must go back to work, but if you've not the sense to take my money, then I shall try and take these pamphlets to somebody who can make good use of them."
All right. He passes you the pamphlets, and as you are walking away, your hat falls off of your head. Emily runs over and she says, "I have this for you, sir." And she picks it up out of the dirty rainwater. As she passes it over to you, she leans in close really quick before Nathaniel can notice anything, and she says, "I really think you could help us, sir. We're in a lot of trouble, and not the kind that he's talking about." And she leans back and she says, "Well, all right," and flounces off back to Nathaniel's side.
He doesn't look... Oh, well, I guess he can't help but, turn to watch her as she goes, but then turns back, and he kind of tucks the hat under his arm and keeps going.
All right.
He's making a lot of deliberations in his head.
Very good. All right, so let's fast forward. 5:30 rolls around. Liam and Adrian, I imagine, go directly from shopping over to... Wait, well, let's see.
Did they fucking shop till 1 until 5:30? Liam have to carry Adrian out of there.
Too overstimulating.
I think, okay, so that's a good point. Let's say Liam would have liked to keep shopping. So where's Adrian at throughout the day? Does he need to go recuperate back at his house?
Well, is there a cafe Liam could just drop him off at You could stay somewhere and have tea.
Coffee shops were quite fashionable, and Liam would be excited to stop in and have a little cup of coffee with Adrian, to just stay in there for a while so they could recuperate. We'll say, for Adrian's sake, because I imagine Adrian doesn't like coffee, we'll say perhaps they can also serve some tea.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, otherwise Adrian will not be able to do the rest of the day, so...
Okay, so they stop in
a shop.
They stop in, they have a little breather. Let's have you roll me a d20.
Should I add anything?
Mm-mm.
No wisdom?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that time I got a 19.
19. You have found so much beautiful jewelry.
Yes.
Like, you have got... you have got... Well, tell me what you've got. You tell me.
Gosh.
What did you find? What are some of the things that Adrian has picked up for himself?
Perhaps some sort of very intricate necklace that is silver and has a bunch of sapphires on it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
the
nice.
clerk was like, oh my gosh, your girlfriend's gonna love this. And Adrian was like, yeah, for sure. And you know, he might actually buy something for his mother while they're out.
Mm-hmm.
Get her a pretty hairpin or a hat pin. And then he also got more stuff for himself, like some pretty rings. He probably did also pick up some other pretty earrings. Could he get earrings that look like little birds or...
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Maybe another brooch or two with like a pretty lady on it.
Very nice. Some little cameos.
Mm-hmm.
While they're sitting in the coffee shop, Liam also takes out a couple of gold cufflinks with small little sapphires inlaid into them and says, I saw you eyeing these as well, so I thought I'd, pick them up for you.
Oh my gosh.
Your birthday? When is your birthday coming up? Maybe I should have saved this. And he starts sliding it back across the table.
Adrian's hand follows after. I mean, you could get me something else.
All right. Well, tell me when your birthday is. And he's holding the cufflinks hostage.
It's in July. It's next month.
All right. And you'll tell me the day?
It's on the 7th.
All right. Because in the previous years, you've let me skip right past it without saying a thing.
Well, I bloody forgot your actual birthday, so I don't see why you should do anything nice for my birthday.
Well, that's absolute rubbish. We'll find something for us to do for your birthday.
Well, do you like the cravat?
The cravat is lovely, Adrian. Thank you very, very much. I
could get you another.
You'd get me another cravat? On top of this one?
Sure.
We can go... Well, we'll wait a while to rest your legs.
Day, perhaps. On a different day, maybe?
Yes, but I do love this one that you've got for me. The sort of golden sheen that it has in the threads is just absolutely stunning. Very subtle, too.
I thought it brought out your complexion rather nicely.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say, Adrian. Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm glad you still want to shop with me again after today. We're getting fairly close to time. I saw that you also got an invitation to see Zach and Daniel?
Oh, right. Another thing. It's in the same day. Yes, that's... Oh.
Well,
Yes.
Shall we head right over, or do you want to drop off all of our things first at your place? I think I'll keep my ring with me because I want to make sure that I can, have something ready on hand if need be.
Don't you need to...
Yes, well, exactly, and I was hoping Zach might be able to help me with that, which is why I got this one. It's not as fancy as the others.
Don't you need your sword when you do it?
You're damn right. I had completely forgotten about that.
Well, are you sure you really want to?
Well, things keep happening to us, so I like to be prepared, and hopefully I won't have to use it for a very long time, and that's the lovely thing about it. If I don't use it, it doesn't break, and it just stays in there for a very long time, and I don't have to think about it.
Can Adrian roll again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, that sounded frantic.
Uh-huh. Damn it all, I got a 7 again.
And you're bad at perceiving people.
Yeah.
Overstimulated.
Yeah.
Very overstimulated. Okay.
Just is like, that's fine.
Yeah. It's like, great, okay.
Perhaps I can swing by one of the clubs and grab one of the swords from there on our way back.
Adrian stares at him. He's not processing things anymore. He wants to leave.
All right. Well, let's go back, and then we'll head over to see Zach and Daniel.
I just want to say Zachary does come home to seeing Daniel frantically clean.
Yep.
And Zachary goes, "You've done it again."
So damn myself and my whole family. I don't understand why I do this.
It looks nice, all things considered. I mean, except for everything that you haven't touched yet. Do you want help?
Yes, please.
All right. He loves jabbing at Daniel sometimes. Oh, this almost looks clean. Very nice, Daniel.
Not right now, Zach.
Liam and Adrian do show up. We'll say that they're not quite showing up at 5:30 because they did have to drop some of the more bulky packages.
Late with Starbucks.
with Starbucks.
And a sword.
And a
sword. Like I thought.
Since the events at the church, Daniel has been practicing with his small sword more often in
Oh my goodness.
Zachary's backyard,
Wow.
which he hadn't touched for a while since his dueling days. But with events happening, he has been more inclined to practice.
Does Daniel have any experience with other weaponry?
Pistol.
And fist.
And fist and rifle.
Pistol, fist, and rifle.
Yeah, he's...
Fist and what?
Doing what to the rifle?
He's a bit of a boxer. Kind of.
Oh,
or
how does that work with his heart condition?
Yeah.
not great.
Not great. Yeah, that's what I thought.
But he kind of tends to ignore his heart condition and just do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. So he could also, hypothetically, he could use rifle or a pistol with summon weapon. It doesn't necessarily have to be sword. It could be any of those.
Yes.
Very cool.
Oh, before they walk up, if they're coming up to Zachary and Daniel's door, Adrian's going to be like, "Oh, should we have brought something with us for them? We were just shopping like literally all day."
Don't you worry about it, Adrian. And Liam pulls out, he's like, I've got a few other bits of jewelry, for Daniel especially, but also just for this very thing that I was talking about. And he sort of touches the sword. Just for that very thing, just in case. I mean, while we're all together and while we're all in Zachary's house, I figured, we don't have to bring it up right away, but
You want us all to be armed?
There's no harm in being prepared. And obviously, it's just a bit of, cufflinks and everything. We can walk around and not have to worry about it. Well, shall we go in?
Yeah, Adrian just squints at him.
All right, so they knock on the door.
Zachary watches Daniel frantically do the last couple of things as he himself adjusts something and goes, "That should be them." And yeah, he opens and he welcomes them in and he takes their hat and such and he takes their coat and he goes, "I'm glad that you managed to make it in. You didn't get rained on today, did you?"
We managed to go to some of the shopping centres that were indoors. And how about yourself? Did you manage to stay out of the rain?
I was dragged to lunch and then, he looks to his wet coat and hat, which is sitting on its own hangers. Had an interesting encounter. That kept me prolonged in the rain for a little while longer than I meant to be.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
It's alright. No harm done. Come in.
At least it's a warm rain,
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, interesting how?
I saw... Well, you're never going to believe it, but I ran into that odd fellow we once ran into in a burning building. Nathaniel, I believe was his name.
Who? Adrian wouldn't remember him.
Ah,
Nathaniel?
right.
Why, of all the people, you saw him out on the streets.
I hate when they do this.
I know.
He was passing out flyers. He was standing out in the rain, passing out flyers for a bath, funny enough.
For a bath? For a bath?
Yes, it's all very strange and complicated, and I don't really know what sense to make of it, but I may as well show you. Come in, please.
All right.
He leads them to the room in which they congregate.
The parlour.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Zachary has a parlor.
Does he?
No. Zachary
I thought
has...
it opens right into the living room.
It's that.
Like, what's the difference? We talked about this last arc, but I don't get the difference.
It's all right.
Okay.
We'll just roll with it.
Okay.
Just rich people have more rooms.
Yeah, but why not just call it the parlor?
Anyway,
Because it's the living room.
Okay.
it's the room with the fireplace and a couch and tea's already set out. Listen.
Okay.
There's also
Daniel's
flyers.
work desk is also there.
Yeah.
There's also flyers there that Daniel actually probably almost threw out without thinking before Zach was like, I keep those there, actually.
Yeah, he almost did.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually hands one out to all three of you, and he says, "This is what he was passing out. He was desperate."
It's a mansion. It's not just a tub.
Oh, like
I thought you meant
a hot spring.
Yes.
Oh, yes. All right. So everybody's reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody roll a d20 except for Zach.
Ha ha. I did this already.
Oh, a natural one. Adrian's still tired from the day. He's like, oh, it's a picture.
17.
I got an 11. Adrian,
Uh-huh.
this actually sounds like just the thing that you need. You are all wound up after a long day of shopping. Liam was dragging you up and down the streets, every which shop, and going to a Roman hot springs, which you have never actually heard of anything like that in London before. Like, sure, there's a sort of historic location over in Bath, ironically enough, that has an ancient Roman hot spring there. But you've never heard of anything like that in London. So this place, you figure it's probably only about 40 minutes away by carriage and pretty reasonably priced, like completely doable. Like you could make it there tonight and you want to go. Like it is, gameplay-wise, it is now your mission to convince everybody else
God.
that this is the place to be.
Okay. Sounds really nice.
Yes,
A
well,
hot spring? Have you ever been to one of those?
no,
I went
but
once when I was younger, because we went out to Bath, where they have the hot springs,
Nice.
and it was really nice. Well, it depends who you're going with, but once you're in the water, it's
Adrian,
all warm and... Oh.
I don't mean to interrupt, and it does sound rather nice, except that I'm a bit... Well, the pricing of it is very,
Cheap. What's wrong with it?
Exactly. Not only that, the strange encounter that I had with Nathaniel seems to imply that he's in a bit of trouble.
Well, that seems on brand for him. What was the trouble? Brand, definitely a term they had back then.
Absolutely. Well, it seems that his employer was really needing these rooms to be filled, or he was also out in the rain with a young girl who he claims is his niece. And there was a bit of magic to her, and she...
Bit of magic to her? Like, is she also a witch?
Possibly.
My word.
And she seemed to have sensed something about me because... Well, I didn't want to bring it up initially, but after this rather poorly convincing pitch that Nathaniel had delivered to me, she had come up to me afterwards and said that they were in a great bit of trouble. Now, normally I hesitate to get involved in these sorts of things, unless otherwise dragged into it by some other force. But...
Do we care about Nathaniel?
Daniel.
Well,
I
they
don't remember him.
They don't remember him.
All right.
We,
Is that you knew him.
we saved his life, really.
Well, then it sounds like he owes us.
Yes, I was going to say he owes us a favour, not the other way around.
He had... The strange thing is he was in the possession of a fairly magical object, a stone. Ooh, I suppose they... Oh. Do you remember the big fire? We've talked about this a little bit. We told you that the fire that, burned down Parliament a little while ago was sort of a magical interference, rather. So Nathaniel... We sort of saved him from being under the influence, like you, Adrian. You've been under the influence of magical objects before, so you understand how it is. And so it seems that he was somehow, we never really asked how he...
Did he set the fire?
Well, it was more like
The object that he was wearing set the fire.
Yeah.
Really. The thing that possessed him set the fire.
That's very strange. Well, it seems like some people are more inclined to these sort of things than others, says Liam, nodding his head a little bit at Adrian.
Adrian just
So he
gives
sounds-
you a withering look.
So he sounds untrustworthy. What did Daniel get for looking at the pamphlet with a 17?
It's fine. You don't have exactly the same sort of magical... You don't feel any draw. Unless you, as Daniel, think that a bath sounds nice. Think that a hot spring sounds pleasant.
It does sound nice, but he's a little thrown off by the price, and he's like, I don't know about this.
Yes. Well, as I said, it was just an interesting occurrence today, and I might be inclined to check it out. And
Well,
see.
that's fine.
Yes, well,
Let's go. I'd love a hot spring.
You would, Adrian?
Well, I've been told I would.
Even a cheap one?
Well, sure. I don't know. Save some money. The proprietor is probably just in desperate straits to get people into the place.
Would there be enough rooms for all of us?
there's apparently 4 left.
How
Well,
convenient.
that's a little dubious. But, I
Well,
mean, Liam, have you ever been...
How would it be dubious if Nathaniel was just talking to Zachary?
I don't know. Things happen weirdly around us.
Well, that's true, actually.
Adrian's got a point.
Liam, have you ever been in a hot spring?
Hot spring.
You seem very tense. I imagine your muscles would love a break and a soak in the lovely mineral waters of ancient Rome, except it's not Rome because Rome is on a different continent. But the Romans did it, and you're much like a Roman athlete, so you must roll me...
Daniel furrows his brow and looks at Adrian.
Roll me a d20. Go ahead and add your influence.
I have to go.
Hello. What is
Have
happening?
you seen his muscles?
Does Adrian say that to Daniel? I have to go. Have you seen his muscles?
I only got a 5 in total, so I don't know how we're gonna get there.
It's not convincing.
Arc ends now.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This was just like, we can talk our way into it if you want. It's just, I wanted you to try rolling persuasion, because that's what Adrian's doing right now.
He's not a convincing man.
So...
Well, maybe I'll go all by myself. He looks like, please don't let me go by myself. Somebody take me up on my bluff and come with me.
Zachary, what? You said you wanted to go?
He doesn't answer. He leans back. He lets out a breath before he goes, I have some concerns.
Oh, right, the magicalness.
Well, he thinks about it. If it's an investigative mission, I would hate for you to go alone, and I would especially hate for you to go with Adrian alone.
Excuse me. Well, Jesus, all right.
He has been practicing his fencing, if that's what you're worried about.
I have.
Yes, but we can't take swords with us everywhere.
Oh, now that you mention it, Liam pulls out the sword that he picked up from his sporting club on the way over.
How did I not see you walk in with that?
I was very crafty, Zachary. Your
Long
special
coat.
eyes can't see everything. But I do want a better way to hide it, and what better way then? And Liam pulls out the jewelry that he had purchased prior to their little visit here, and he says, we broke a lot of precious jewelry last time while we were, in the church, and so I thought it was only fair that I should help replenish your supply here. Well, Zachary, you don't need it quite as much, but you could have a brooch if you want one, just for the pleasure of it. But Daniel, I've got some cufflinks here that could be imbued with new spells. What say we get prepared and check out the place? We'll know what we're getting into.
Are we all summoning weapons?
He seems to think that's a good idea.
It might not be a bad one.
So we're all just going to walk around armed to the teeth?
In our special little jewelries.
I think rings would be the most intelligent because...
Matching ring. Team rings.
Rings would be the most intelligent. If we're going to a bathhouse, we're not necessarily going to be wearing clothes with cufflinks.
Yes, I suppose you're right.
That's a very good point, Daniel.
A ring would be smart.
That's probably when they would attack.
Well, you'll see in the little box there to the left, right in front of the big one. That's one of the rings there. You might like take a look.
He does so.
It's a nice ring.
What kind of
gem? It's got tiger's eye.
Well, this is quite beautiful.
And it's going to break.
Well, then I'll just get them another one.
So we'll go? Are we going to the thing?
I am.
All right.
Well, if you two are going, then I certainly can't stay here. I'm sure you feel the same, Daniel?
He rolls his eyes. Yes.
It might be nothing. It might just be debt. But...
Yes, there was that fellow who recently went to court for all those debts. It could just be a very similar situation.
As to why it's so cheap.
Yeah.
Liam is actually looking at Adrian's like, I didn't know you read your own paper.
Ollie reads it.
Oh, well, that makes sense, yes.
He tells me anything important over breakfast.
How Ellen does the same.
How nice. Anyway.
So glad you can afford someone to read for you.
Daniel, how about I start reading the paper for you? I can come into your room at 6 a.m. and tell you the news.
God, no, if you enter my room at 6 a.m., you won't be alive next morning.
All right, so we're going then?
Yes, let's...
It is this evening.
Oh, I'm sorry, Adrian. I know you are quite tired, but that's exactly why you need the bath, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, do we have... I think we should have a little bit of time to get ourselves prepared first.
Also want to mention that since Arc 3, everyone has increased their arcane because they actually, practiced it.
Yeah.
Now us 3 lads have a +1 in arcane, and Zachary has a +5 from his +3 because he still has a bond with Carrion.
Wow.
Excellent. With, I assume, quite a bit of Zachary's guidance, everyone begins to prepare for the evening.
Except for Adrian.
Except for Adrian. Adrian has so enamored with the idea of going to a hot spring that he refuses to believe that...
I don't want to bring anything. So much trouble.
Are you quite sure?
I've got one. I mean, I have a ring that I never use that has open sesame on it.
If we want to snoop around in the towel closets.
I don't.
Well, no, I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Apparently, there's something going on underneath the surface, according to what Zachary has said. So I think it's a good idea, Adrian.
Right. Well, and Zachary has helped everybody else. And should we say what our spells are?
Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll put it down on the record so that everybody knows we aren't fudging later if we want to use a different spell. So, what is Zachary preparing?
So, before I say any of the spells, Zachary is still making offerings and praying to Carrion. And so he still has his, ability to, dip in and out of shadows and things like that. So that will be going with him.
Does he talk to Carrion before they leave?
I'll get to that in a sec, because I did think about that. But for now, I'm keeping his cantrips as they were before, which is a light cantrip, and he summons a ball of light, and a deflect cantrip, which is what it sounds like. And his 3 spells that I'm having him equip are... Oh, invisibility? Really? All right. Invisibility, lightning ball, and gravitas.
Cool.
Okay.
Has Daniel been practicing with intention over the last few months, or has he sort of given that up now that they're no longer in the middle of an angel heist?
He has meditated on intent and things like that, so he is kind of keeping it in practice just because he's kind of on edge. And also he is stressed towards his work, so distracting himself with something else is preferable. Yeah, he's been meditating.
Very nice.
He has his small sword with him, so he's able to imbue that into a cufflink where he will be able to summon it later. He is also taking the full revival that was prepared last arc and has been lying around the house in a ring. He puts that ring on, and he's taking that with him. And he's also bringing a shield that he has imbued on a ring as well. And he'll be wearing those rings at all times. So at all times he will have shield and full revival with him.
Very nice. As with last arc, since I'm DMing, I put my spells up to the group for decision. And so the spells that Liam is bringing is he is putting another summon weapon, another sword into a ring, and he is also bringing lightning ball. And we will say that one is in the brooch with which he is pinning his cravat. And the third spell that was decided is deflect, which deflects magical attacks, but not physical attacks. And so that one is going to be a cross necklace that he wears underneath his clothes. Also of note from last time, we've got all of us some special leaves, which were brought up in the interlude. And we have feathers. I don't think Adrian has any feathers, but Peter, the angel, gave one of his blue feathers to Liam, which has some of the same properties as the Fergus feathers from Arc 3. And Zachary also has a feather from Maria, a white speckled feather, which will function essentially as the hint button if you guys get really stuck. And I think also Daniel and Zach still have their Fergus feathers if they need to dispel, create a distraction, or summon Fergus.
Yes.
So you wanted us to circle back to Carrion.
Right. After he kind of helps you guys, he remembers that in the busyment of getting everything ready, he hasn't put his normal offering up for Orion, and he goes, "Just a second, I'll be right back." And he goes upstairs, all the way up to the attic, in the little dark corner where he keeps his little altar. He's taken a date with him upstairs, and he puts one down in the silver offering bowl. He sits there quietly, waiting for Ryan or some hand, which he assumes is Ryan, peek out of the shadows and take the date.
You don't hear a voice, but you do feel something itch in the back of your mind this time. And if you close your eyes, in the darkness behind your eyelids, you see a wardrobe standing in the center of a room, and it is surrounded by lamps and candles in circles all around it, completely encircling it. And the vision starts to get a little bit fuzzy, but you do see one of the candles snuff out. And then that's it.
He opens his eyes. He looks to where the date is or was.
The date is gone.
He doesn't know what that means, but he
keeps it in his mind, and he goes back downstairs. He decides not to say anything.
All right. So is everybody, is there anything else anybody wants to do before we leave?
Pet the cat.
Pet cat.
Yeah.
Press A to pet cat.
Yeah.
Presses A fervently.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I assume you do get a Mr. Midnight set up with a few more scraps for the evening. The cats are taken care of.
And he can go out and hunt.
Oh, yeah. I guess he's an indoor-outdoor cat. Okay, very nice, very nice. So, the rain has not let up in the slightest, and if anything, it's a little bit heavier. So as everybody trundles out into the street to catch your carriage, the driver leans down through the pouring rain, and it's sort of slipping off of the front of his hat into a thick curtain of water. And whenever you give him the address, he sort of sighs a little bit, because it is a little ways away. It's about 40 minutes by carriage. And then he nods in. He says, I want half payment up front, half payment when we get there. Come on. And he opens his hand. Liam pays him.
We'll tip you.
It's a long way away. He wants it. The man wants his payment.
All right.
So
we'll tip you. We're gonna jump out of the carriage.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You should really get a covering. You should get a covering for... Never mind.
Well, Zachary pulls Daniel in, stop.
Tip me well, and I will.
All right.
And so everybody gets in, and the carriage goes sloshing through the rain, and everyone's in there for a decent little chunk of time. Would you say it's a sort of comfortable silence? I'm sure you guys had enough time to drink a little bit of tea before you left, but how's everybody feeling?
If normal conversation has taken place, Zachary is informing Liam about his time at the bank so far. He's kind of trying to keep it light, maybe hoping that, nothing is really happening, and he's kind of, fighting that thing in the back of his head.
Mm-hmm. Liam is very concerned. He's like, are people being nice to you?
Oh, yes. If anything, there's a gentleman there who's very nice to me. His name is Matthew Merriweather.
Merriweather. Well, I'll have to look into him. I'm sure if he's being nice to you, then he's good in my books. Do Adrian and Daniel chit-chat about authorly things?
Eventually they get to it. I think Daniel
Maybe
starts realizing, feeling silly for being, armed to the nines, going into a bathhouse, and so he kind of mentions that to Adrian, and he says, are we overreacting to this?
I think so. I do. It's probably just some poor chap who's trying to dig himself out of a hole. And we will just go have a nice evening at a hot spring, and I will not see anyone socially for another month because I am very tired.
Yes, she was shopping earlier.
Yeah, all day. And
that must have been awful, he says sarcastically.
It was, Adrian says, not picking up on that at all.
Hang on, I'm gonna do a quick roll. Liam definitely hears Adrian say that the shopping was awful, and he looks a little bit disheartened, but he doesn't say anything.
Sorry. Doesn't mean it,
he does.
Do you want to roll?
It was awful to be with.
Why don't you roll a d20 to see if you notice Liam's expression?
Okay.
Rolling to notice your crush.
Do I add wisdom or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I got a natural 20.
Wow.
So he does.
You absolutely
you clock it.
Yeah, it's like,
it's one of the first times you've clicked into anything today, and you're like, oh fuck, it had to be this one.
I know. He's like, oh Liam, I didn't mean. It was. I just, you know how I am with crowds. Spending time with you was lovely, obviously. But you know how I am. Takes a deep.
It was very busy out on the streets. It's true.
It was a lot.
I promise I won't, I won't.
Don't take it to heart.
It's all right, Adrian. I won't,
All right, okay.
Oh, jeez. Sounds like we do need a bath.
That's what I'm saying.
So.
Zachary is just turned to looking out the window.
That was very awkward.
What have you been writing?
Well...
Changes the subject.
And then they talk about stuff.
And eventually, you do pull up through the rain into a roundabout. Out here, the buildings are much less crowded together, and this place does have sizable lawn, so you pull up in the drive. And this is quite a large building. It's very impressive. There's a large Georgian front. The building is, you would probably expect by the architecture from sometime in the early 1700s. It looks very weathered in places, but clean, as if it has been newly refurbished. And as you pull up, there is a sign that you pass that names the place Holloway Manor, so you know you're in the right place. So you step out of the carriage into the rain, you pay the coachman, and you look up at this impressive building before you, and thunder rumbles across the sky, so you hurry inside to Holloway Manor.
Liked what you heard? Let us know by using hashtag #DandiesInDanger over on our Twitter, Insta, Tumblr, and TikTok in the listed links below. We'd love to hear any and all comments, questions, and theories as to where the story might be headed. Want to support us and our lads' adventures more directly? Then please consider clicking on the link and becoming a patron today. For just $1, you can gain access to our longer, uncensored outtakes and blooper reels. For $5, you can have access to exclusive stickers, in-world letters written by and for the lads, poetry by Adrian and Daniel, and original music from the show composed and scored by Chess Albanese. Can't afford to support directly? No problem. Podcasts survive by word of mouth. So if you like what you heard, tell your friends, family, and local graveyard ghosts all about these exciting tales. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Dandies in Danger is written and voiced by Elijah Bergateras as Zachary Wilkos. Cast as Liam Bardsley. Chess Albanese as Daniel Pritchard. And Toast as Adrian Edwards. It is edited by Toast. Original score and music composed by Chess Albanese. It is produced by Dandies team, and made possible by listeners like you.